Mary J. Blige in our little break going on there, but we are back. Welcome back to Let's Talk About It with Xavier Fox. And I'm always excited when I get to do my special guest interviews because I get to know someone new. And I love doing blind interviews. I don't do a whole lot of research on them because I'm going to find out everything about them right here with you. We both going to find out about it. So, Mr. Crosby, welcome to the show.
Oh, good morning. Thanks for having me.
Oh, yes, absolutely. You came highly recommended by a mutual friend of ours, Miss Janice.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yes, so I definitely wanted to have you on the show. We all love Janice. She's definitely recommended some really great personality. So I'm really looking forward to this interview today. So before we get into what you really do, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from? You got brothers and sisters. Let us know who you are.
Oh, I got all those things. So I am originally from Chicago. I grew up in Oak Park, Illinois. I went to OPRF High School. Um, Man, I as a child, I lived in California for a bit, and when I moved back to Chicago when I was probably 11, I'd always thought about trying to get back to California. And when I turned 40, I decided, you know what, I'm going to take a shot. I had a son at the, I still have a son, but my son was grown at the time, and I'm like, you know, this might be my chance to just kind of try something new. You know, get back out there on my own and try to live some of those dreams. So I ended up just packing up my car with whatever would fit, and I drove out to California. I've been out here now about 8 years. I live in San Diego currently. Um,
Oh, San Diego. Okay.
yeah, yeah. So as I mentioned, I do have a son. I also have a gorgeous grandson. He'll be 2 in July. He is just the most delightful thing in the world. I have two brothers, one in Atlanta and one that lives in Phoenix. And currently I'm working in social service. My background is in psychology, criminal justice psychology, and I've been in social service now since 2008. So I work primarily with the homeless population, individuals that are struggling with mental health issues and or addiction. That's kind of been my bread and butter the last several years.
Okay. So, well, with all of that being said, what was your first job? Like as a teenager, what was your
Oh
first?
man, my first job, I worked at this place. You know, if you live in Chicago, you might remember there was a store, it's a home improvement store called Courtesy Home Center. And they were a home center like Handy Andy. Builder Square was big back. This is like before Home Depot and Lowe's, right? But these are like little mom and pops. But Courtesy had like 7 stores throughout Chicago, and I worked at one in Forest Park. It was my first job. I was 15 years old. I was a junior in high school. My buddy got me this gig, and I was a stockman in the lumber department. So I was the guy that was always bringing out the lumber and the drywall when it ran out. The guy that's helping people load up their trucks and pulling the orders. I did that part time through junior and senior year, and then I went full time after I graduated. And I kind of grew up with that company. It was my first job was in retail. I was pretty good at it. I became a department manager at one point, and we went out of business when Home Depot moved into town. Once Depot came in, a lot of places just like packed up and left.
Okay,
And
so you must be kind of big and strong.
sometimes I don't always feel as strong as I want to be, but yeah, I mean, I definitely put in some labor back then. I mean, I was working hard.
There's like a little echo behind you. Do you have the show on in the background too?
I do not. No, no.
Oh, it's a little echo going on back there. Okay, so that was your first job. So what did you do
Yep.
in high school? Did you play sports? What activities did you have
I
to?
was, yeah, I grew up like loving baseball, and I went out for the team when I was a freshman. Didn't quite make it, and I that was fine because I was still young enough that I could play in the community leagues. I was only 13 when I started high school, so I spent that summer playing baseball. And then like my sophomore year it was probably the roughest academic year of my life. I don't know why that was. But it was like at that point that I just kind of decided to focus on academics. So I didn't do too much sophomore year, and then my junior year I started working part time, and that just became my thing. I'd go to school, I'd study, and I'd go to work. I worked like 3 days a week, and I worked Saturday and Sunday. So I was just out there making money and studying. I wasn't like, don't let me get me wrong, I wasn't a great student. I was studying all the time, but I definitely put my time in with the books.
Okay. So do you still like baseball? Are you an avid baseball watcher?
I am a diehard Cubs fan, much to the chagrin of the Southsiders. I mean, I love the Sox too, but yeah, I have carried the Cubs in my heart for decades. Still watch it. I watch football too. I typically watch basketball when it's college basketball, so I watch it during tournament time. Professional basketball, I'll catch a game here and there, but when the playoffs start, I'm pretty much glued in.
Okay. And how old were you when you got your first place?
Oh man, I was 18. I
Okay.
mean, yeah, as soon as I could move out. Now, mind you, I moved back a few times too. Well, yeah, when I was 18, and mind you, I didn't go far. I remember my first apartment was like a one-bedroom apartment in Oak Park, and it was literally maybe a quarter mile down the street from my father. So I did not go far. I spent a lot of time grocery shopping in their kitchen. So
Oh my, and probably washing your clothes too, huh?
exactly,
Uh-huh,
exactly.
uh-huh. So you said you're in social work, and I know you're also a writer. So tell us
Yeah.
about how you got into those things and what made you want to do what you do.
I was after I quit retail, so I worked in home improvement. When Courtesy closed, I went and worked for Home Depot because they were the big boys on the block at the time, and I spent about 6.5, 7 years with them. But during my time with them, I was in college, and my degree was in criminal justice, and my ultimate goal had been to go into law enforcement. But when you're working at Home Depot, you make a pretty decent amount of money for doing pretty. It's not like it's a simple job, but it's not like it wasn't something that took a lot of time for me. It was like it was a good job. I was very good at. I was good at working with people, and it just felt like it was a natural fit. But in the back of my mind, I also realized that I'd spent all this money on this degree, and maybe I should do something with it. And so after I left Home Depot, I became a private investigator. I worked with a private company that was based out of Westchester. And I was with them for maybe 5, 6 years. And then I decided I wanted to explore some other academic options. And so I applied for um, entry into the Chicago School of Professional Psychology. So I wanted to get my master's degree in forensic psychology. And I was really surprised that I was able to, kind of blend my PI world with my studies. But I also recognized that a lot of the things that I was studying, was based on like real world action in mental health and in social service. And so I decided to leave that job and pursue, at least a little bit of a career, something of a career in social service to help me supplement my studies. I wanted to really be able to put what I was learning into practice. And so I got a job as an employment specialist for an agency called Thresholds. And they're based on the north side, like right near, right off of Ravenswood and like Irving Park Boulevard. And so I worked for them for a number of years, and that got me into social service. And I originally thought maybe it was going to be a temporary thing. I'd maybe stick around until I got my degree. But I really just fell in love with the field because there's such there's a need for it, right? There's a need for people to work in an industry that needs to. My mother calls it heart work. It's working with your heart. It's working with people and helping them find their heart.
Right.
And I found my place in that because there were days that like I would be feeling bad personally, but then I go out and I meet with a client and they would give me some new perspective, and these are folks that that are, I worked with a program called the Justice Program, and we're working with people that had severe mental illness and or addiction issues, and they were coming in out of jail and prison, but they had a very unique, I think, perspective to their own lives, and they would, enlighten me on things. And it really taught me just the value of fellowship, the value of brotherhood. And I fell in love with that field because it just gave me an opportunity to learn about other folks and to help other folks realize, their own potential and their own worth, so to speak. But it also kind of helped me fulfill and find my own, worth, so to speak.
People that we encounter are often a reflection or a mirror of ourselves. So it does help us learn about ourselves as well. I love that as well. I'm a coach. I'm not a social worker, but I definitely understand the rewarding feeling that you get from helping someone else out. So that's a good thing. You have a big heart.
Yeah, and, it's just yeah. You see yourself reflected, but you also see you see society at its best and at its worst. You get that opportunity to see the things that we should do as a society, the things that we are doing, and you really take notice of the disconnect, and you want to really try to connect those pieces as much as possible. You want people to be able to view humanity at its best and for us to be the best we possibly can. So it opened my eyes. It still opens my eyes to a great many things. And, I'm fortunate to be a part of it. Sometimes it can be heavy, any work, even,
And
no
so
matter what's that?
How did you start writing the books you write? I saw on your profile yesterday, because you just released another book, didn't you?
Yeah, my second book, it came out in November. I've always enjoyed writing. Back when I was talking about high school and studying all that, English was one of my favorite classes. I love to write. I love to write stories and poems. And I've probably been writing since, maybe the late 90s. But I didn't know what I was doing. I had no clue. I was a guy that said, I'm going to write this book and it's going to be great and I'm going to make all this money. And I had no idea about the craft or the art of writing. I didn't really start learning about that until probably about 10 years ago, really. Just understanding the structure of writing. And so once I started to pick those pieces up, I was, putting stories together over time, and I found it very relaxing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's that point where you can just kind of let your imagination flow. You're not stuck with the rules and regulations of everyday life. You can do anything you want. You can be anything you want when you're writing. And so it gives you the opportunity to create these worlds and these characters that live in these worlds. And, you can just kind of live out any thought or fantasy you want. Within reason. You don't want it to be too insane that readers don't catch it, but yeah, it's a great way to just let your imagination flow.
And you write horror, right?
I do horror, and my two books are urban fantasy. So that means that it's basically you're taking some elements of horror, and mine is more mythological. So I take a lot of Greek mythology, and I mix a little bit of horror in there, and I set it all in the real world.
Wow.
Yeah.
How did you get around to doing that? What made you want to do
I've always had a very vivid imagination. I've loved like comic books and sci-fi fantasy movies. I love stories about like magic and sorcery and all that stuff. Vampire novels. I was reading those, since I was a kid, and so all that stuff's always been in me. I've always wanted to like tell a fun story with some of those elements in it. It just kind of sticks with me. It's just kind of a part of who I am, and I took an opportunity to like, complete the story and put something together, and it came together pretty nicely.
Okay. And what are the names of your books?
So my first book is called Death's Legacy, and it features a woman named Cassidy Simmons. Um, I take a lot of my real world and put it in my books too. So things that I've done in social work, I will kind of mix in there. Things that I've done just in everyday life. She's a private investigator, like I used to be. She's also a bit of an addict. She loves bourbon. In the first book at least, she drank a lot of bourbon and took a lot of Vicodin because it was helping her deal with these powers, these abilities that she had that were really overwhelming her. So I was able to kind of tap into my experience working with that population and give it a feel that was real and not, like this Hollywood version.
Okay.
And she's got, like I said, she's got these special abilities. She has to fight the angel of death in the first book because he's acting a fool and setting the natural order is just kind of turning on its end, and she's got to stop him in order to make things right. So I wrote that book, and then the second book is called Death's Debt, and it's a follow-up to that book. And in this book, she's got to fight the god of war and keep the four horsemen of the apocalypse from coming into fruition.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's deep. How did you choose those titles?
That's a good question. I'm not even sure. I'll tell you what, the original title of my first book was actually called Homecoming. And it was titled that because of that phrase took a lot of meaning in the book. Like she had a real major turning point in her life after a homecoming dance. Mm-hmm. And then the book involved her having to return home after a 20-year absence. And so, I thought, oh, that'd be cool. I'll just call it Homecoming because of that element. And then I think I wrote a scene in there early on in which they referred to her as Death's Legacy. I'm like, ooh, that might be a good title instead. And so
great title.
Yeah. So it went from Homecoming to Death's Legacy, and then the subtitle was Homecoming, and then eventually I just dropped the subtitle.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and Death's Debt. So it's part 2. So there apparently in part 1, there was some type of debt that was established.
Maybe. I won't give too much away. Let's just say she's got a debt to pay that she did not incur.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah. I'm sure our listeners, I'm sure their senses are tweaked right now. So we'll absolutely at the end of the interview, we definitely give the website and all that stuff that they can purchase the book from. But right now, I have another question for you.
Go ahead.
Aside from you said you have a son?
Mm-hmm.
Aside from your son, what has been your proudest moment in life?
Ooh, that is a good question.
I try and do that. I try to have some pretty good questions.
Got me thinking all early in the morning.
I know, right?
I've had a few moments that have excited. I mean, aside from my son, because that was certainly a magical day. I would say making a decision to move out here without knowing what was going to happen. I have a cousin that lives here in San Diego, and he'd been trying to get me out here for years. And I'd always kind of push things off. I had things to kind of finish up at home, and it was always something. But I think making that decision and just kind of sticking to it and not letting the fear of the unknown stop me. I think I've done that a lot in my life. I think people do that in general because sometimes it's easy to do things that are safe, right? It's you don't want to take that leap and fail, and then now you're left with nothing.
Right.
We don't often take a chance with things, and so moving out here and not knowing what was going to come. I mean, I didn't even have a job lined up when I moved out here. He was gracious enough to let me stay with him and his wife, and until I got myself on my feet. And, I had a job within a month of moving here. Um, it's, I think that's probably the proudest, just because I tried something new. I didn't let, fear hold me back. And had I not moved here, I mean, I wouldn't have two published books and two published short stories. I don't think my writing career would have taken off the way it has over the last several years had I not come to San Diego.
That's wonderful. And San Diego is a great place. I lived there for a very short time back in, I think, 1990. I lived there for
Okay.
8 or 9 months. It's a beautiful place to be.
It is. It's a great city, and it's, when I came back to California, there were places that I knew I did not want to go.
Right.
Pretty much anything between Los Angeles and San Francisco, I was not doing that, just because of the expense. And it's not to say that San Diego isn't expensive, but the pace and the feel is a lot different here in San Diego than it is in those cities. And so it was either going to be Northern California or San Diego. And yeah, I think just being here, like I said, has really helped kind of shape who I am now.
Yeah, I think San Diego has a more laid back feel. So
Exactly.
What has been your proudest moment in business?
Ooh, man. It depends on the business. So let's take both of my business. Let's take social service for one. And I think with social service, I've had a number of proud moments, and they all revolve around client success. Going to court with a client and having their probation terminated successfully. Getting a client out of jail and getting them into an apartment and helping them furnish it and helping them learn how to manage their finances, and seeing those aha moments in their eyes, those times when they realize I'm worth more than what society seems to see me as. They can be anything they want. And the moment they realize that's just a special moment. And I've been fortunate enough to have a number of those, both back in Chicago and even here in San Diego. And it's hard to pick just one, because each time it's just so spectacular. So yeah, I think I've had a number of great moments in that. And in terms of my writing, I would say, well, my first book, it won a few awards last year. And I think winning those awards, writers we're very, broad brush statement here, we're very insecure. Mm-hmm. We write things, we put our heart and our soul into our work, and we're always worried that it's bad. We're always worried that people won't like it or they won't resonate with it. And so, to get a notification that you've won an award, or to get a notification that your book has been reviewed and it's received 5 stars from, an organization, those have been my great moments, because it helps validate the work that I do. I put a lot of work into the writing, and to know that people like it, and that it's acceptable, and it connects with people. People actually connect to the characters. They connect to the story. They thank me for building characters that are not just characters. They can actually see people, in the story. They can actually, connect to them and think of them as either themselves or someone they know. So those moments, I think, have been great when it comes to my writing career.
Okay. And so now we're going to flip the script on you. So what has been your toughest moment in life?
Ooh, strangely, I think it's the kind of flipping those answers. When I as much as I love the fact that I was able to leave Illinois and move here and take a chance, it was difficult to leave. I spent 30 years of my life there, building a life, not just, my son was there, he was grown, but, it was tough to not be physically there when he would need me. I left a lot of friends there. My father, my stepmother, my uncle, most of my father's side of the family lives in and around the Chicago area. So it was tough to leave that and, not have that large support network. Like, and I still have it. Like, I can reach out and call anybody. I can text them. I can, email, whatever. But to not be able to like say, hey, let's go grab a drink or let's go get dinner, and have that happen immediately, that was very difficult for a while. Took a long time to adjust to not having that network there.
Okay. Right. This time next year, what do you hope to accomplish?
This time next year, well, I hope to have my third book done and published by this time. Oh man, I hope to. I feel, especially over the last couple of years, travel has been difficult, and I really want to. I don't think I've ever taken a true vacation. Like most of my vacations, I've also worked. I've had jobs where I'd be able to work remotely, or if I am on vacation, I spend several hours of the day also writing before I go and do anything else. And I want a vacation.
Okay.
I want to go somewhere, and I don't want to have to worry about anything in the world. I want to put things down and just like be in the moment. You know?
I definitely understand that.
Yeah. It feels there's just so much that goes on in the world, and whether it directly affects you or not, it affects you.
Yeah.
It still kind of hits you. And so just having the opportunity to kind of get away and truly decompress and take that opportunity to really appreciate your own life, your own self, the people that have come in and out of your life, those moments I don't think we get enough of. And vacation I think is a great opportunity to do that.
So it sounds like what you need to do is finish your third book and then plan a celebratory vacation after that. You won't have anything to write. You will have just finished the book. So
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly.
Sounds like that's what you need to do. So I know you may not know much about me as well. However, I am I've been called a relationship guru, but I reject those type of titles because there is no such thing. I don't think each relationship is as unique as the people in it. However,
Mhm.
I am known for relationship discussions. So
Okay.
part of my interview is always something to do with relationships. I have to do it. So my first question is, are you single?
I am. I am very, very single.
All right, you're very, very single. So now my next question, there's two more questions to follow.
All right, I'm ready.
Why do you think you're single?
Uh, that's a good question too, and I think about this often. And I think for some can kind of see it as an excuse, but I think for me it's because I don't feel settled. Like I've certainly had relationships. I've over the years, and they haven't lasted. But I think part of why they haven't lasted is because I haven't felt completely settled in myself. Um, I don't know. I can't think of the last time. Like I said before, living in San Diego was great. It's a beautiful city. You wake up to just a beautiful atmosphere. You go out and look at the sunset and the beach. I mean, there's certainly a lot of beauty here. Um, but even with that, it's not what you see. It's not the things around you that fulfill you, right? And so there are so many things I think that I need to feel settled. Like I even in the place that I live in now, in my apartment, it's a great little apartment, but it doesn't feel like home, you know.
Okay.
And so I don't feel settled in that way. And there's still some things I think in my career that I need to figure out. Things that I need to figure out in my writing career as well. And so I think those things, once I feel a little bit more settled in those parts, I think I'll feel a little bit more open to kind of seeing what else is out there.
Okay, that's a good answer. Do you enjoy being single?
Um, Sometimes, I'm a natural introvert with extrovert tendencies. I am perfectly at home, sitting on my couch watching Netflix and having takeout or cooking for myself. Um, there are moments though when I want to be out in the world and I want to be out. I wish I was out there sharing that world with somebody. So I think it comes and goes. I think there's times when I'm perfectly content being alone, and then there's times when I'm like, man, this kind of sucks. It would be nice to share this with somebody.
Mhm.
But I also don't want to just get into a relationship for the sake of being in one.
Right. I totally understand that.
You
Mhm.
know, you want to have that moment where you meet someone, you connect with someone, and all of a sudden you can't think of anything else other than trying to get to know that person, finding a way to make that person a part of your life. You know, I like that organic kind of connection.
Yes, absolutely. I totally
Yeah,
agree. I understand your answer completely. I feel the same way. You don't want a relationship just to say you're in a relationship.
right.
Yeah, that makes no sense. So now we're going to play a little game.
Let's do it.
All right. So you have 60 seconds total to
Uh-oh.
answer as many questions as you can. So
I
you
hope they're
ready?
all yes or no answers.
These are fill in the blank answers.
Okay.
All right. Answer as many as you can.
All
60
right.
seconds. I'm about to start it. And the first question is, when no one is watching,
Sing.
it's never okay to.
Humiliate someone.
Hmm. I'm at my best when
Walking in the rain.
ah, I learned to never.
Humiliate people.
I always keep a blank in my wallet.
Business card.
I would spend my last dollar on.
Oh man. um, ice cream.
Oh goodness. When I'm alone, when I'm
Film.
alone,
Read or watch TV.
I'm my sexiest when
Mm. When I feel like nothing can touch me in the world.
the world needs more.
Love.
I never go to bed I never go to bed before.
I give gratitude to the people that are in my life.
All right, so you got all the way up to 10. There was a total of 15 possible. That's the end of your game, and you got 10. That was pretty good. You gave some really good answers. And so I'm just going to touch on this real quick because it's a popular topic, and you said humiliate people. So
Yeah.
what's your thoughts on the Will Smith, Chris?
You know what's interesting? I don't know if anyone else has read it, but Kareem Abdul-Jabbar wrote a fabulous essay on it last week, and every point that he mentioned just made so much sense. You know, I think it's hard to speculate, obviously, on what the true catalyst for all that was.
Right.
But I have to say that it was disappointing in many respects because you're at a point when you're at a point in your life in your career where you have so much influence, not just in the industry that you work in, but in among the people that follow you, right? You have to, as much as you may not want it, you kind of have to bear responsibility for that. You have to demonstrate what it means to level up. And
Yeah.
I think that, you know, it's very easy to lose your cool. I've certainly done it in my life. You know, I am an emotional creature. We all are. But at some point, you also have to recognize that in order for us to do better as a society, we have to model the behavior that we want to see. And so you know, if your reaction to something is to get up in front of the entire world and slap somebody over, you know, what they said, um, that's not leveling up. That's not modeling behavior that you want to see. That's not certainly not modeling the things that you have said about love and life. It's not modeling the behavior that you then say in an acceptance speech. Um, Again, I can understand being overtaken by emotion, but we have to do better in how we respond to that. You know, and there's also responsibility in the Black community. As a Black man, I want to see us level. I want to see us, really take different tactics to resolve issues. They don't always have to result in this physical form.
Right. Yeah.
We are brilliant. We are intelligent. We can do so many things together, and to have that friction result in something physical, I think it just hurts. It hurts us as Black men, as Black people. In addition to hurting us as a greater society, because again, I'm all about modeling that behavior you want to see. If you want people to do better, then you have to show them how to do it.
I agree. That was a good one. If you could go back and give your younger self a piece of life advice, what would it be?
Take more chances.
Ah.
That fear that I talked about when I moved from Illinois to California, it was a real fear, and it was a fear that had I'm not going to say ruled my life for a long time, but there were a lot of decisions that I made growing up that, to this day, I wonder, I have those what if questions. What if I had done this instead? And I recognize the reason I didn't do that was because I was afraid of the outcome. I was afraid of the unknown. And so, as much as I counsel people on taking chances and taking those risks, I certainly wasn't doing that myself. And so, yeah, I would tell my younger self to take more chances, especially when you're young, because, you can kind of afford to mess up.
And start
you got time to fix things. Mm-hmm. And that's not to say that you don't have it when you're older, but you certainly have greater opportunity when you're younger to just rebuild.
True. So who are your top 3 comedians and why?
Top 3 comedians. I love Kevin Hart.
Okay.
I think, I don't know, he's just, everything he says makes me laugh. I just recently started watching, I know it had been on for a while, but I never tuned into it, but The Real Husbands of Hollywood.
Okay.
Started just binging that, and he's quick-witted. He's sharp. It's not just like in your face humor. It's not crass. It's witty. It makes you think. It just kind of he touches on things that we've all kind of been through, and makes it funny. So yeah, Chris Hart is one of my favorites. I grew up, during that Eddie Murphy age when he was just coming up, coming off of Saturday Night Live and doing movies. And I remember, seeing Raw, Eddie Murphy Raw in the theater. Yeah. I still think he's the king of comedy for me.
Okay.
And then, let me think here. Who else do I really like? I'd say I'm also a big fan of Cedric the Entertainer.
Okay.
I don't think for some reason, I feel like he doesn't get enough recognition. But I think he's hilarious. He reminds me a lot of my father and my uncle, just in kind of his mentality.
Okay.
And so sometimes when he's on stage, I can imagine one of them being on stage, like saying the exact same thing.
Oh, wow. Feels like family.
Yeah. So yeah, I would definitely put Cedric up there.
All right. And so what is your favorite vacation spot and why?
A couple years ago, I went to the Dominican Republic. My brother had turned 50. He wanted to have a destination birthday. So I flew down there with him and a bunch of his friends, and we went to Punta Cana. We were there for 4 days. That was probably the last true vacation I had because I wasn't actually even working at that point. I had left the job and I took a couple months off before I went back to work. So I was free and clear just to kind of, enjoy things. And it was fun. It was probably the second time I've been out of the country. I've been to Mexico a couple of times, but that trip was it was just exciting to kind of wanted to spend time with him, get to know some of his friends a little bit more, but also just the environment, the atmosphere. Stayed on this resort, it was great. And you could walk away and do your own thing, and then you could also just kind of be immersed in all these people who are, just having the time of their lives as well. So I would say that was probably my favorite vacation and my favorite destination spot.
Okay. What goes on grits?
Ooh, butter, salt, and pepper.
Oh,
Sometimes cheese. I'll put a little cheese in there sometimes.
oh wow. Okay. Your grits are fancy over there. Butter,
Well, I
salt,
tell you,
pepper,
it's
cheese.
funny you mention that because I'm a big fan of shrimp and grits too.
Okay.
And there are several places out here that make that. And if I see that it's on the menu, I'm probably going to get it. I'm probably going to order shrimp and grits.
Okay. What is success to you?
It is satisfaction with your life choices. With where you are in life. I am not one to define success by your title at work. I'm not one to define it by what's in your bank account. I'm not one to define it by fame. I think it is if you are living a life that you're proud of, that you're happy with, that you're content with, then that is success. If you can, kind of influence people in a positive way, if people grow up wanting to emulate you, or if you're able to kind of stimulate someone's mind into thinking something different about themselves or about the world around them, I think that is a success.
That sounds good too. How do you hope people remember you?
Probably just that way, just as a person who was available. We all have challenges that we deal with in life, and we have certain people that we would share that with and feel comfortable sharing that kind of vulnerability. And so I try to be that, and I'm hopeful that when people remember me, that's what they remember. That I was there, and I wasn't there to fix things or to fix them. I was there to be supportive. I was there to listen. If they wanted advice, I would give it, but it wasn't my mission. My mission was to be there to be that kind of support piece, so they recognize they don't have to walk that path by themselves.
Do you have an elevator pitch?
For me,
Mm-hmm.
for books, for my books, yeah.
Can you share it with us?
I did it all weekend. So this weekend was WonderCon, which is it's very similar to Comic. It's the same company that owns Comic-Con here in San Diego, but WonderCon takes place in Anaheim. And so it's people that get together for comic books, sci-fi, a lot of authors there, a lot of artists there, actors just kind of walking around. And so I was selling some of my books there. My pitch basically is that my book is a mashup of Jessica Jones meets Clash of the Titans.
Okay.
Yeah, that's how I hook them in. It works. As soon as I see somebody with a Marvel shirt, I'm like, oh, you like Marvel? Let me show you this. So yeah, that's what I lead off with.
Okay. Yeah, that's very short, sweet, and to the point. So
it gets them.
How can people contact you?
Best way to find me is I have a website. It's DennisKCrosby.com. So you can go to that site. You can check out what I've written. There are links to purchase those books, either in print or even in ebook or Audible. It also gives you the links to where I am on social media. I'm on Instagram a lot. Also Dennis K. Crosby, Twitter, Dennis K. Crosby as well. So yeah, that's probably the best place to find me. Just you can type that in and I will pop up.
All right. Do you have anything coming up in the next 30 days?
I might be, I may have a scheduling conflict, but I'm scheduled to be at the LA Festival of Books, um, which is an event that takes place, I want to say it's like the last Saturday or Sunday in April. Don't quote me on that. I have to really look and see, but I feel like I've got a scheduling conflict, so I might not make that. But nothing else pressing. I'm waiting to hear back on a few things that are coming in the summer and the fall. Might be a few conferences that I will either be at live or virtual, depending on which direction they decide to take.
Okay. It is great getting to know you. Do you have any final words for our listeners?
One, thank you for having me. Listeners, thank you for listening to me. um, I do just, and this is not to preach, but I'm also one of those folks that, you've kind of heard it in this interview. It's we can we can do better as a society, right? We talked about it with last week's events with Will and Chris, and you see what's going on in the world. And I just remind people, we are a global village. The things that we do can impact other people. And if we can do everything we can to try to just be mindful of that, be mindful that our actions can have repercussions on others. And we do better when we're working together. We will do better if we just kind of think of things in those terms. Just kind of hopeful that we can, be a larger, stronger brotherhood for those that are coming after. I want my grandson to grow up in a world where things are much different than they are now.
Absolutely. I have grandsons as well, and it's scary sometimes.
It is, and I think about, when I was a kid and, what my parents wanted for me, what I wanted for my son. I know he wants great things for his son. But we will have a greater challenge, getting to that point if we're separated, if we're not really focused on the greater good and really trying to help everybody. So I'm always hopeful that we can find ways to do that.
I agree. Well, it has been great getting to know you. Thank you so much for spending this time with me.
I really appreciate it. Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure. It's been a blast. Love it. Love those questions too. That 60-second thing. You got me.
All right. Well, okay. Well, you enjoy the rest of your day then.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
All right. Have a good one.